Hello guys, and welcome to something a little bit different today. No naval action today, this is Napoleon Total War. Well, it's Napoleon Total War, but not as we know it. It is in fact the NTW3 mod, and it's a historical battle and the Battle of Waterloo. So as you can see by the map, it is a lot different. Now this is a 1v1 between me as Wellington and my good friend Stilgar as Napoleon. And just open the map again. As you can see, the points on the map, they are points that go towards a victory. So this is played slightly different, and it is played with lots of different rules. So the most important one is the LCS rule, which is line, column, square, which means obviously in the old vanilla Napoleon you could instantly go from a line of troops firing line into square in a split second, which is just ridiculous because any cavalry that was near it would just die instantly. This you have to form a column first before you can go into square, and that's to represent the time that it would take a battalion to move from column to square. Another thing to note, we've just finished the deployment zone, I must add, where we, a bit like tabletop wargaming, you give all the moves to all the units before we actually start the battle, which we've just finished and the battle has just started. So as you can see, there is the map with the French. Now with the fog of war I can't see all the French units and the French can't see all the British units. So that's another fine addition to this mod, is the fog of war. I'm currently moving troops down to Hougoumont, which historically where a lot of the fighting was. Now I don't know which way, although historically placed and the units are historical, I don't know which way Stilgar will go. He could left flank me, he could try and divert somewhere else where the main attack will be later. And that probably will be with the guard, of course, as was historical. But it looks to me firstly that he will be going for Hougoumont. So I've moved an extra battalion down there into the orchard. I do have already some Jaegers and Maitland's Brigade of Cook's Division, the 1st Foot Guards holding the farmhouse. It looks like they will be up against Jerome's division. So he's initiated the fight with Jerome's division supported by Foy's division with accompanying that cavalry. He's also set up artillery on my far right flank with supporting cavalry. Now another important thing to note is the reinforcement deployment. So I can't move, and Stilgar can't move all of these units. As we all know, the far left flank, the Prussians arrive late on the battlefield, and this is represented by the timer. So it starts at 90, but these corps cannot move onto the battlefield. You cannot move these units till that time has gone. Chase on my far right, which is the Dutch division, there, beautiful looking units. They can also not move onto the battlefield until it hits 70, so another 15 minutes. Now what we will do halfway through this battle, because it is so long and intense, we will take a break, and that is just to bring reserves on and make moves to all the units. You can see how many units there are. It's an absolutely ridiculous amount of units, but that is what I love about this mod. It is absolutely stunning. So let's start with the battle then. Let's get back to the meat grinder. So I've moved skirmishers into the orchard and guards behind the wall of the farmhouse, and he's committing Jerome's division. Now I don't know yet whether this is a diversion or an actual attack to take Hougoumont. If you can check the map all along the front, there's no movement on his right, there's no movement in the centre. If you check the centre, you can see his Grand Battery has already started up, and they'll be trying to thin my ranks. You can see the morale already dropping on some of my artillery, which is moved to the top of the sunken road with my infantry sat behind it, and I'll be using this sunken road to cover my infantry as best I can, and also to move from flank to flank if needed. As you can see, I am moving some infantry to where I presume it may be needed, and it's looking like that will probably be around Hougoumont. So Stilgar, should I say Napoleon, is still moving his troops, trying to get them in the best position he can, and he's already started to take decent casualties. He's brought supporting artillery up, but that will be obviously hit from the ridge in my artillery. There is also limited ammunition for units in this march, which I'm sure we'll tell later. Hit on the French artillery there. They've had enough and they are routing off the field. I doubt they will come back. They may though. We'll have to wait and see. But at the moment this is where the action's taking place. Go and take a view from behind the defensive wall. I mean, the scale of this mod is just amazing when you think about the map, which is accurate, and all the units is just a mile away from Napoleon vanilla, and it's so much more gripping and intense. It's almost unbelievable. So we don't feel like I have to move any more reserves in at the moment, holding well. Time gone is 80, the next reserves in 10 minutes. Chase, the Dutch division, will come to support my right, which is probably why Stilgar's not pushing any more on my right. At this moment he's just focusing as the battle rages around Hougoumont. The morale is a bit more temperamental on this mod. Obviously his unit loses casualties, they won't stay there till the last man dies, because that is just would be ridiculous and historically that would never happen. As you can see, they probably lost close to a third of the troops already. At this point the morale is getting shaky, but so is the French. And here come more battalions, this time from Foy's division to support Jerome's division. He's probably thinking about pushing around my right. As I say that, there you go. They're moving in thick firing lines. As a counter battery carries on all across the battlefield. I have moved men into Le Haye-Saint, just in case. It's going to be a long battle. And it's going to be an intense battle. Now it looks like I've moved some light dragoons, King's German Legion, down to support the skirmishes in the orchard. And it looks like the morale on the 3rd Foot Guards is starting to tell. Half strength, they won't be far from breaking, and there you go. They might be Foot Guards, but they've had quite enough of that, thank you very much. So it looks like the French may be fixing bayonets for the farmhouse, just as they did historically. Later in the battle, Hougoumont was taken and then retaken back by the Allies. I think if he does take it though, I don't think I'll be pushing to take it back. I will probably hold the ridge, because I don't want to bleed myself dry trying to retake it after I've lost it. So I'm charging the KGL light dragoons in, try and break up these infantry formations. You can't move them into square because they're not in column, they're only in line. So artillery is firing canister, and my cavalry is blown. Winded. They may come back as the guard units stream off the field. So there's only the Foot Guards in the farmhouse to hold it, and that's Maitland's brigade, Cook's division, and it looks like the French have opened it. The guards, 1st Foot Guards have moved down off the ridge to support. They've been taken, already you can see the casualties, they've been taken from the front defensive wall, so I've brought them up to the 2nd defensive wall. Will the French try and take this wall, or will they take too much? Yep, their morale's broke. Almost 50% casualties again. That was enough for them. So that's 2 brigades already that have broken. Supporting columns on the right flank. And with the view of their fleeing friends, they've decided they're getting out of town as well. So I imagine Jerome's division, there'll be a fair bit of regrouping here, which gives me time to move more infantry brigades down. Artillery still plugging away. And that's the thing with the Napoleonic Wars, sometimes you just have to stand there and take the balls as they flew through your ranks. Just like that. Down the rest of the battlefield, there's still counter battery fire all along the front. There's no Prussians in the distance just yet. They're still in the woods, they haven't entered the battlefield. Stilgar will know they're coming, but obviously not until, at least the 1st Corps won't be until 2/3 of the battle have gone. Same with Stilgar's guards. Old Guard, Middle Guard, Young Guard, they won't come in until approximately the same time. But where will they commit them along the front? I can't even see where they are in the field yet. All I can see is those units there, and he'll probably say, see 1/3 of mine. He does need, for a decisive victory, 5 victory points. Hougoumont is 1, but I hold that at the moment, so he does hold 1, 2. He needs another 3. At this moment in time, it looks like he's concentrating on Hougoumont. He is taking his time. Steady but sure.
The men are fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
This being a historical mod as well, just noting on that, the fatigue is quicker. Men do get tired quicker, therefore their accuracy is less. So it does tend to go on for a long time. As I say, akin to if anyone's done tabletop gaming before. It is a small representation of that, I guess. I've moved the Brunswick Corps down to support. Avant-Garde and Light Battalion. I do love their uniforms. Let's get a good close-up on them if we can. And they've been supported by Bing's Division, Bing's Brigade from Cook's Division, Coldstream Guards. I'm sure most of you will recognise them. I'm still getting pounded from my right flank, but I'm holding. And in 4 minutes I get to move Chase's Dutch Division onto the field, which will probably threaten Stilgar's extreme left flank, so we'll have to be careful of that. And there we go, he's moving some support over, we can see in the distance. Waterloo's division. These Frenchmen go flying across the battlefield. All they can do is just stand there and take it at the moment, and they have taken pretty decent casualties. I think this is best played 2v2 or 3v3. Me and Stilgar did a 1v1 because of the length of time the battle can take. That's all I could get at that time, so we did a 1v1, but there's so many units to use. I think the battle would have been more dynamic with probably 3 people on each side, one for the centre, one for the right, one for the left. It's difficult to keep track of all the units in a 1v1, very difficult. It looks like I've moved skirmishers into the trees to try and drive out the French, and they seem to be pulling back. And in that quick respite, it looks like I've managed to bolster the defences of Hougoumont. Could be a diversion if you look at the layout of his troops. There doesn't seem too much movement anywhere else, certainly not on the right flank. It looks like he is just testing Hougoumont at the moment. And that's 4 more brigades being pushed into the fight. No strength in cavalry yet. There is very strong French cavalry in the Battle of Waterloo. Ney wasted them historically against British squares, so I'll be interested to see if Stilgar can do any better. And all the time these French brigades taking artillery fire from the ridge. As you look at that, which does affect the morale. Concerned under artillery attack. Casualties sustained over time. Yeah, those Frenchmen are not going to like that. Enfilade fire is a killer. So there's more guards. Maitland's brigade moved up to the wall. We've got a cavalry charge in the rear. Chasseurs Cheval against light dragoons. And a lot of time cavalry on cavalry action did lead to disorganisation and cavalry that was winded and blown, which means they were pretty ineffective and useless on the battlefield after it, as you can see there. The Brits did win the battle, but everyone is disorganised and tired, had formed square with the Brunswickers, giving supporting fire. 3 more squadrons coming up. Carabinier and Cuirassier. Of course, they had the breastplates. Heavy cavalry. And I don't think I fancy that fight, so I'll be pulling my cavalry back and trying to hit them with artillery fire. As the French try and continue the push to push me out of Hougoumont. I think at this point I've considered that's all I'm going to push down to Hougoumont.
Men are running, sir.
I don't want the French to bleed me dry. as Napoleon indeed tried to do. I'm having to move more and more men over to this side, more and more cavalry. Just to hold this one area. And there's the overall view of the battlefield and all the action around Hougoumont. Now he's moving some sneaker cavalry up. He may try and charge my guards. I can't form square because they're in line, they're not in column. And this is still now a mixture, two different divisions, and there goes the cavalry. I may get a volley fire into them. And indeed I do. Which routs the small squadron of cuirassiers. The remnants of Jerome's division is reorganising and is coming back in. And look at the death at the wall. Maitland's division. 50% casualties as well. I'm not sure how long they'll hold for. Dropping like flies.
Our men are running, sir.
Now they broke. So he is bleeding me. 2 brigades of guards have gone already. Look at the death at the Hougoumont. But then again, the French have taken a lot as well. As you can see, that artillery piece is still firing away. And it looks like he's moving in more brigades to support. Bringing more cavalry down to support. And the time is on 67, which means that I can now move Chase's division, the Dutch division, and they have arrived in Pospol, and they'll be moving down the road. To move units, especially infantry in column on roads, is quicker, so they'll be arriving in column, and they'll be threatening the French left extreme flank. And there goes the cavalry, and they're charging the brigades. Couldn't form square in time. They went in column. One flees straight away, straight onto the next. They see their brigades next to them flee, and I imagine that one probably will as well. If you can see your friends being charged by cavalry next to you and fleeing, the odds are you're going to do the same. So they can run them down now. His supporting cavalry wasn't close enough. He's bringing his dragoons up now. These units will come back, but disorganised. They'll have to regroup and then come back, which gives me the chance for the Brunswickers to take over the defence. And he's still got 2 columns of French there, still waiting to threaten my flank
the men
around
are
Hougoumont.
fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
I think he may be deciding that he's committed to Hougoumont as an attack now. I've repelled 2 attacks by the French, 1 Foy's division and 1 Jerome's division. He probably feels he has to commit even more. He will have had cavalry reinforcements on the field, and very soon, yeah, Simmer and Janine's division. But I cannot see those because of the fog of war yet. And there's some cavalry charging Bing's brigade, Cook's foot guards. They would be able to form square now because they're in column. Well, I think that was just to gain himself some time, threatened with the cavalry. Brunswick is still in square. They're defending the rear against any cavalry chat. Here come the French columns. They are unsupported though. I don't know how that effective that will be for the French. It looks like those brigades may not be coming back. Just as I say that, one is starting to organise itself again, but exhausted, won't be coming back anytime soon. And all across the front, still the artillery fire rages. So a quarter of the battle gone. No movement on the French right flank, my left. See column of reserves. All the action looks like it's around hougoumont. The good thing with the fog of war is I cannot see any troop movement left to right down the roads, so I don't know where he is moving his reserves to. And there's a good view of the death and destruction around hougoumont already, with only a quarter of the battle gone. He has bled my guards division quite strongly. Coldstream guards I'm keeping in reserve, because I'm quite sure at this point, yep, he may be pushing hougoumont again. And here to come two more brigades in column of Jerome's division, just tucked behind that small rise there. My artillery's still pounding away. King's German Legion firing down onto the French lines. And here comes Chase, the Dutch division on my far right. They've now entered the field. I'll probably position my arty somewhere at the top of the ridge here, and that can then have enfilade fire on the cavalry and the artillery that's been pounding my right for the first quarter of the battle. Just to consolidate my right flank, there'll be no push down here, and that supports the right flank of hougoumont, which is possibly why he's pulled that attack back at this point. He's seen the Dutch coming over the hill. I thought that's a bit risky, so he's pulling them back. Let's see what cavalry's got in reserve. Some of the finest in the French army. Grenadiers of Cheval. And Imperial Dragoons. They're set back in reserve. So I've got Brunswickers now in the defence. Two walls. It's going to be a tough nut to crack. If he wants to try and take this, it's going to take him a big effort. But I think he is. Stilgar is committed to try and take this now. If he does want to push the guard up with about a quarter of the battle left, it's going to have to be either up this ridge or this one. But the problem that he's got is, just as it was historically, he's got Le Hay Saint, what would fire into his flank, and that's also the same for hougoumont. Without taking these buildings, and the French morale has crumbled again, just through pure casualties taken. If he tries to push between these buildings, it's going to be a lot easier for me to fire down on him. And I've got At this point still lots of cavalry, lots of infantry and reserves. Where are the Scots Greys? There you go. So all my heavy cavalry is still in the centre. And at this point, I think you can see by the death and destruction around hougoumont, is probably could be moving more reserves this way, and he's probably just reorganising his troops while he continues to pound in the centre. Still no sign of the Prussians yet. 58. Yep. 2 corps are on the move already. They are a long way off in the distance. As you can see, they're just arriving now, the advance guard of the Prussians, on my extreme left flank. So almost halfway in the battle, and Napoleon will almost be able to see in the distance. Is it black? Is it blue? Is it Grouchy or is it the Prussians? Well, we know it's the Prussians. And they've arrived. Advance guard on my far left, and which I'll probably move some now. I'm convinced that the French are going for hougoumont down the sunken road. I may swing some onto my right flank. It's got a bit past the point where I think the attack on hougoumont is a diversion now. I think it's the real deal. The French have had to refuse flank on the far left because of Chase's Dutch division arriving. And I think we're both happy for that to be a stalemate at the moment. He's got the cavalry advantage. I've got the infantry advantage. So I think a bit of reorganisation is going on in this area. Still be pounding the French. As for the French reinforcements, with 56 gone, 6 minutes, the Young Guard and the cavalry will be movable, and they'll be in the rear somewhere here, so they could take the hougoumont road or the Hay Saint road, or even go over to the right against the Prussians. He has got 2 scout cavalry on the far right, so he can see when the Prussians start to arrive on the field. But where will his main attack be? Now in this mod as well, there's not just obviously the historical battle of Waterloo. I do believe there's about 20, 25, 30 battles. So if in the comment section you'd like to see another historical battle played out, we can certainly do that. Me myself, I'm still waiting for the Battle of Borodino to arrive, but I think I've been waiting for that for years, and the size of the battle means that it's very unlikely to be made by Desai and the crew. The amount of work that goes into these, I know they've been working on it for at least 5 years. I do know some of the guys quite well, and they've put so much work into it. And in the lull of the fighting, we can see more reserves. Yep, there's Simmer's division. These 2 divisions arrived on the battlefield 67 gone. So they arrived on the field 30 minutes ago, and it looks like, as expected, he's moving those down to hougoumont as well. He is determined to take this farmhouse. But I have got strength in depth. Let's see if he has started to bleed me dry. I have got a lot of reserves. Well, it might seem like a lot of reserves, but we'll see how that goes. And the Prussian advance guard, I have started to move from my left flank to my right. Because that's where all the action seems to be taking place. And he's now brought up the Guard Imperial Artillery. And that will be giving supporting fire to the attack by Simmer's division on hougoumont. I do feel like he is starting to mass infantry over here. Let's see how this attack goes from the viewpoint of the Brunswickers behind the defensive wall. Can't hardly find any room to stand amongst all the dead bodies. As the lines move in. I have probably got these on hold fire, and that is because obviously more effective the range, so I will let the French march on until they're very close, not to exhaust my troops and not to waste ammo, and to be more efficient with the accuracy. You can see the artillery firing down. The overall view of the battlefield again, most of the action is around this area. And they're holding fire till they can see the whites of their eyes. And you can see the Frenchmen dropping. And we see more French brigades moving up to support. Morale is suffering a bit, and they're marching forward in columns. So the frontage of muskets won't be as much for the fire, but it will give them a morale bonus because of the depth of the column. It's very important, the size of the units. But obviously they will be vulnerable to musketry fire. Nice shot, sir. Artillery fire still coming down on these columns though. Enfilade fire again. And he has got some supporting cuirassiers as well. He's already seen my cavalry come down and sweep the French off the field around Hougoumont once. He doesn't want to take that risk again. Guard French battery, counter-firing. And we're coming up to nearly halfway through the battle. But there is still plenty of reserves. The guard hasn't moved yet. Another 9 minutes for the guard. And you can see another Prussian corps is entering the battlefield on my far left, French far right. He's threatening with the cavalry. I can't form square, so I'm counter-charging with my cavalry.
Our men are running, sir.
And now he's gonna, I think he's realised now is the time to push a little bit harder. Bringing more cavalry down off the ridge. More reserve cavalry moving over. And the French cavalry has routed 2 brigades from Hougoumont. But I still have the wall quite secure at the moment. Counter charging with my cavalry. KGL Hussars, which in turn brings a charge from French cuirassier.
Our men are running, sir.
Routs them instantly. And the French are amongst us. More counter-charging from the British cavalry. The French may do bayonet charge soon. They're forming for it, but they are getting threatened by British cavalry. Massive cavalry fight.
Our men are running, sir.
And they're going to charge the French column. Now they can form square because they're in a column. That'll force the British cavalry away. So like all rock, paper, scissors, what beats square? Mass volley fire or artillery. I cannot attack this with cavalry, so I'm going to bring the Brunswick brigade down, try and line them up close, and then they can pour some volley fire into the French square. Meanwhile in the rear, cavalry charging the French
The
line.
men are fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
Pour it on them, boys. And there's no way that French square will hold up to massed musketry like that, and they're breaking. Hougoumont getting a little bit dicey now. Casualties almost 50%. More units are arriving. More British units, more French units. He is starting to bleed me a little bit now. The first units of the Prussians, the advanced guard, arrived on the left, have moved over to my right to support Hougoumont. All the action is becoming around here now. And the Brunswickers, bless them,
One of our units
have driven the
has used
French
all its
off again.
ammunition, sir.
It looks like a great cost to the French. And you can see at the wall of Hougoumont the mass of casualties that I've taken already. Usually about this point halfway in the battle, 44 minutes left, is where we may take a pause, have a quick break, and at that point we'll just check what reserves we need to bring in. Only 4 minutes to the remainder. The guard for the French and the Prussian First Corps, as you can see on the right. Second Corps is just arriving on the field through the woods, and obviously Stilgar, aka Napoleon, with his scouts, can already see they're arriving on the field. He thought about pushing, it looks like, on the right, but in this built up area I've already got my defences prepared. Don't think he'll be coming that way, plus he's going to have to think about refusing flank pretty soon against the Prussians on his right. Battery's been taken out. All along the front, the artillery continues to pound away. And he's reorganised the French again. The 2 fresh divisions, and it looks like he's going to try and push again. I'm having to move more and more men down to Hougoumont. And there's a thin red line across the centre as I've moved more and more troops over to my right. And what do we have there? Is that what I think it is? No, that's not the guard. But he is moving them from centre to left. So I'm pretty sure the main French thrust late in the afternoon is going to be over here somewhere. Starting to move the men up, slowly but surely. And as I said before, you can tell halfway, this is where we take the break to issue orders to all the units. And if we look at the overall battlefield, you can see it's all around Hougoumont. He still only has the 2 victory points. He does need another 3. Now at this point I'll just say Mont Saint-Jean and I think it's Place Noire. They are the LOCs of both armies. Now if one of these was to fall, so if I was to get Allied infantry into there, if he was to get French infantry into there, if he drove straight down the road, down the centre and took that point, that is the line of communication for both armies. And if you were to take that, then the whole army routes off the field, or the morale takes such a massive drop that it's just easy to push off the field. And that's because the line of communication has been taken. The rear of the army is threatened, no supplies, no reinforcements will come, and that's a very easy way. Well, I say easy, if you can take it, it means you would have to attack. Where are we? Let's get to the centre of the field. He would have to attack right down that road, push me off the ridge, all the way down, and if he takes the LOC in the rear, my army routes off the field. Line of communication, strategic victory. And it's the same, the French have one too, but obviously in this battle there's no way I'm going to come off my defensive advantage to try and take that. I mean, the map is pretty amazing. You can see pretty much what it would have been like to march up this ridge in column whilst taking artillery fire. Hello Highlanders. Artillery fire and musketry fire all the way up, and it's the same to the right of Le Saint, which I do believe is where he's gonna push straight up this ridge, which is why I have my artillery there waiting in case that happens. But at the moment they're just firing down onto this French infantry, but lots and lots and lots of casualties on both sides already. Over on the French left, still got all this cavalry. There's counter battery fire up and down the hill, and there's Chase's Dutch division, and my right looks pretty secure. Over on my left, as I say, he's moved his French right up. Take a look at what I've got here. I've got the Nassau Reserve already waiting to face off. That's the movement phase over. The units have started to go again, and we're open for the second half of the battle. Prussians are leaving the woods. For some reason, they do have British flags. We are testing out some files, me and Stilgar, for this battle. They would show Prussian flags, all these units. So there's 2nd Corps, Westphalian.
Our men are
2nd
running,
Corps.
sir.
And it looks like the Guards have broke at hougoumont. Can't say I'm surprised. 50%, over 50% casualties. Can the French push me out one more time? Columns moving in. They've got Cuirassier support. He's got the movement column because of my cavalry that's there threatening. Also got Halkett's brigade moving down. More and more infantry is having to move this way. My artillery is pounding the column while it's on its way and taking big casualties, losing morale. But that's there just to secure this flank from cavalry charge into the flank of all these. He's seen it once this battle, he doesn't want to see it again. I've moved skirmishers now behind the wall because of the casualties that I'm taking. And they should do pretty well there. Hard to hit, but accurate. And it's a cavalry charge. The column can form square. But again, the Brunswick is in the right place at the right time. They'll form up and pour it into that French square. That breaks the square. More cavalry being moved in by the French. Guard artillery still firing away at the ridge. Is that what I think it is in the distance? Here comes the
The
old
men are
guard.
fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
Frein's division. And they are centre, so they can go right against the Prussians, who are pushing in on the French right. They can go in the centre, or they can come and support Hougoumont, which I think that's probably where they'll come, so we'll keep an eye on those. Because this is where the fun's happening. Another French cavalry charge. Breaks my British cavalry instantly. Counter charge again. And the brave Brunswickers from the rear with cavalry. Bayonet charge from the French from the front. Will they stand?
Our men are running,
Nope.
sir.
They've broke. More French cavalry around the side. More British cavalry counter charges. But all is not looking good at Hougoumont now. It looks like the French have bled me dry. Running out of reserves. And only Halkett's brigade stands in column. Can he hold the
Our men
line?
are running, sir.
Morale is dropping. True to form, will the French take Hougoumont in time? This is Simmer's division, if you remember, came in late as reserves, so they'll be quite fresh. Not too many casualties. But still managed to cling on to Hougoumont. Artillery fire is still ripping holes in the French columns.
The men are fatigued, sir, and must rest a while.
Brunswickers have reformed in the rear, so I'm pushing those in again. They perform really well in defence of Hougoumont, so they may be exhausted, still confident. Haven't taken too many casualties, so I'm pushing those down again. Here come 2 squadrons of heavy cavalry for the French. Those are the bad boys, so I need to keep my eye on them. They could tear through my lines. I have massed some counter cavalry myself. The centre, other than the cavalry reserve, heavy cavalry, Scots Greys, is just covered by Picton. In fact, it isn't Picton. Don't know where Picton's gone. On the far right, Prussians taking the furthest woods. I'm probably going to set up the artillery here somewhere, cover them with cavalry. And as you can see, they can shoot down on the far extreme French right, and I'll threaten that with the main corps when Bluecoat arrives, which will be, let's have a look, when the reserves came, 40, so we're on 33, 7 minutes ago. But they are quite a distance, so they'll be moving soon. And let's see what Stilgar's doing with his French guard. There they are. I think he's deciding what to do with these bad boys. Got Old Guard, French Division, Middle Guard. And Young Guard. He's pulled back from hougoumont. Look at the bodies. Pretty sure some of my infantry may be running out of ammunition soon as well. At this point, they've been fighting a long time, most of the day. There's only 30 minutes left. Guard hasn't moved yet, but he has brought the Grand Battery up. There's the big Guard battery. And it looks like they're starting to pound before the attack commences.
Our men are running, sir.
So at this point my right flank is quite depleted of infantry. I have moved a lot down, used a lot of cavalry. This is my main reserve now, and I'm hoping that this can hold until the Prussians arrive. And all along the front it is raging, which is why I think it will be more dynamic with a 2v2, 3v3, because it's like each person would control their own corps and could push independently. It's quite difficult on a 1v1 to keep eyes on this many units on this scale of map. But as I say, you can pause it any time just to make moves. If you're on TeamSpeak or Discord, you can have a chat about how you think it's going. That's a pretty depleted Foot Guards brigade right there. But I'm pretty sure now the French are reorganising what they have left. There's almost only a third of the battle to go. And we see movement from the Guard. And as expected, they're moving over to the French left.
The men are fatigued, sir, and
So
must
it
rest
looks
awhile.
like he's going to refuse the right flank. He knows the Prussians are coming. He may push in the centre. No, it looks like he's moving everything to the left. He wants everything on the left flank for this final push. He's got to either push Wellington off this ridge, break the army and take the line of communication, or Blucher will come to save the day. Yep, he's even moving cavalry from the centre over to his left. I can just see that with the fog of war because he's on a rise, so I can see that from my ridge. He could have moved them further back over there and I wouldn't have seen them, but I think we all know where the attack's coming, just like Napoleon did. He's moved all his artillery over to this side. Hoping to weaken this front. Whether he has or not is yet to be seen. He's certainly bled a lot of troops. He's knocked that artillery unit off the hill. Any artillery he can get rid of now before the advance will help him a lot. And it does. I am looking quite thin up here now on the ridge. Let's join the Highlanders for a moment and see what they can see. Looks like they're going for the battery. The only remaining artillery battery on the ridge, this side. He's definitely trying to clear them off. So at this point, we're entering the last third. Pretty sure this is where the attack's going to come. As the Highlanders can see columns in the distance of French.
Our men are running, sir.
French are moving on in the same old style. We have the remnants. Different brigades from different divisions that have tried to take Hougoumont. And here we have the Guard, still fresh. But they have got a lot of terrain to cover, a lot of ground to cover before the ridge. I can see them now. I know that's where it's going to come. He's massing all his troops. So I'm going to cover that with moving my heavy cavalry over. Dutch light dragoons. Hussars. Belgian Carabinier. Just like Wellington did, I want everything that I've got, every musket, all in this area. Because it looks like the French are going to make one more gamble. He can probably only see, he can't see anything behind this ridge, he can only see what's on top of it. So you won't see these troops moving. You just see the odd brigade, depleted artillery, depleted cavalry. But you won't see all of this. And that's a thing I really like about the fog of war on this mod. This mod actually brought in the fog of war before the official Total War franchise did. And I do really like it. So this lonely Foot Guards brigade facing off against off the French army at the moment, it seems like. I don't think Hougoumont will be getting any more reserves. They're going to have to hold with what they've got. But they are getting good enfilade fire into these French columns and cavalry. And here come the columns. Final gamble for Napoleon is here. Prussians are arriving on the right in force. And you can see where he's going to try and push me off. I've moved all my reserves to this one point. Trying to move as many infantry columns as I can over. Fortunately for the French, he has removed all the artillery off this ridge, so it's purely infantry and cavalry. If he'd taken Hougoumont, this push would be so much easier. And I think that may cost him in the end. Because the morale of these units here is suffering. More French columns are moving up. Because of that, you can see they're suffering from the enfilade fire. He's going to have to pull them back, but he's moving forward with the guard as they march up the hill. Pouring it on the French. All along this line. More columns of infantry moving over. Units breaking on my right. You can't swing these around here. I've got a column of infantry there that could form square. Quite a big square there, so any cavalry that comes around will be stopped in its tracks. And here comes with a cavalry charge, which I've countered and volley fired by the Highlanders, light regiment. Still pushing on the right. They're getting shot at from La Haye Saint.
One of our units has used all its ammunition, sir.
And I'm starting to run out of ammunition now as well, just to compound the issue. I do believe at this point, on the right, here comes Blucher. Here come the Prussians. That probably spreads along the line.
Our men are running, sir.
Good shots from La Haye Saint into the flank of the French. He's moved the artillery up, Grand Battery. Only 16 minutes remain. He's reorganising his columns on a shorter front. So he'll have twice the numbers. He's brought his artillery up, just like Napoleon used to. And now he's shooting into my ranks with his artillery. And that'll cut swathes through the infantry. Morale's dropping. You can see how it decimates the infantry battalions, 2nd KGL Light Battalion, getting the full force of the Grand Battery. And there's the overall look. Prussians in on the right, they're refusing the flank. All the troops are in between hougoumont and La Haye Saint. Guard just standing waiting for the final push. I think he's giving it one last go, reducing my infantry with his artillery, looking very thin.
Our men are running, sir.
Now here comes the columns, here comes the guard. It's now or never. Prussians have almost initiated contact on the right. I'm moving my cavalry up to buy me some time. There's a nice gap here for them to charge through. And the whole battle now comes to this point, right here and right now. French are pouring it on. More French cavalry's brought up. French cavalry charge. I can't form square because I'm in line. They'll probably break immediately, so I've got a counter charge with the Dutch hussars. And we have French columns attacking. The mere sight of that makes land brigades run. I'm starting to break. I've got to now send in the last of my reserves. There's nothing in reserve. I can only send in my cavalry to try and stem the flow.
Our men are running, sir.
And that is pretty epic, the scale of the battle. Those French are broke. Starting to form squares. It's time to send the rest of the cavalry in. As more cavalry comes over the ridge.
Our men are running, sir.
He's having to send more French cav.
Our men are running, sir.
I think if I hadn't have saved all this cavalry in reserve, it'd have gone straight through me there. Possibly even moved on and taken the LOC. My whole army would have fell back. But I've kept just enough by the skin of my teeth. I've still got the heavy
Our
cav,
men are running,
Scots
sir.
Greys, as a last throw of the dice. Still pouring on from the ridge. Guard is stopped in its tracks for the moment. Hello.
Our men are running, sir.
He's starting to falter. Hougoumont is safe, still there. Still in Allied hands. And the guard's falling back. Again, just check destruction in the bodies. Gives you a feel of what it would have been like. That lonely square. Can't come out of square because of the cavalry. Just has to sit there and receive fire. And they're forced to break. The guards drop back. Wellington's done his job. The right is held. Let's jump over to the Prussians. Looks like they're ready to move in. French right took a defensive stance. Looks like they've had to move some of the guard over here. Just took men away from the hougoumont area. Middle guard, old guard, which could have been used elsewhere. as the Prussians advance. So that went pretty historical, I'd say. The French have had to pull back. I could march down into them, but I don't think that's necessary with the Prussians coming on the right. 7 minutes left. I'll just hold this line. Just survey the death along the right flank. Prussians have spent 7/8 of the battle marching to this point. Can they actually do anything in the last 5 minutes? Can they break the French once and for all? I think we'll soon find out. French charging with the old guard, young guard even, but receive a volley to the face. The morale is dropped by the French. With the amount of units, you can see why this is difficult to play as a 1v1. But it is still really enjoyable. The French don't have the numbers here to hold off 3 Prussian corps. Trying desperately to bring defensive artillery up. Cavalry will make short work of them. Threatens the morale of the old guard.
Our men are running, sir.
Another massive cavalry battle in the centre. Morale's dropping all on the French right. They've got no more reserves to bring over. And there's only 2 minutes left. So I think we can call that an Allied victory. The French are routing on the right, the Prussians are coming in hard. I really did enjoy this battle. As I say, it's a lot more strategical than your normal run-of-the-mill Total War game. I will put a link to the mod. I do believe it's 2 separate links, one historical, one for the normal. I'll put that in the description, so if you want to try it, by all means download it and give it a go. I think it's one of the most enjoyable experiences you'll have in a Total War mod. If you want me to try any more historical battles, it's got them all in there. Leave a comment and we'll try and get that together and do that for you. Hope you've enjoyed the battle. It was pretty intense. And Napoleon's on his way back to Paris. And there is the French right, completely smashed. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, guys.